Hello.
Hey there.
Hey, what's going on, Eric?
Good, and you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you
Nice to
for
meet you.
joining. You too. For those of us that are going to be watching later on, is Eric Jarrin of Despised Icon. Fucking, I mean, legendary band for the past 20 years.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I mean, y'all got some exciting stuff. You got a new EP coming out, but new EP in a sense, but it's also stuff from old songs that y'all have had from, previous releases.
Yeah, exactly. As you mentioned, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year, and we already re-released our two first albums earlier in the year on vinyl for our fans, and we wanted to give out a little something extra special before the end of the year. So we went through the band's archives and found these rarities and old demo tracks we did before becoming the band most people know nowadays. And we thought it'd be cool to have like this little item. It's coming out on 10-inch vinyl. It's also available on all streaming platforms and on CD as well. So collection of all demos and newly remastered with a new artwork for the occasion.
Yeah. Even though they're old songs, they're still they're still badass songs. I mean, it's like you could have made it now, and there still would have been kick-ass songs.
Cool, cool. Well, yeah, I guess those songs were I guess something fresh and different back then. Um, Most of these songs have been written around the Healing Process album era in 2004, 2005. It was the like the 2.0 version of Despised Icon with Alex Arian on vocals, because on our first album we had Marie Hélène, which was which is was our first original singer, and she's a girl. So this was like our new sound where we incorporated a bit more of the hardcore influence into the death metal influence, and I guess we haven't changed our sound that much since then. It's
Yeah.
so yeah, it sounds pretty Despised Icon, and it could come out today, and I guess it would stand the test of time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the sense to where if somebody for some weird reason has never heard of Despised Icon, they see this EP, and sometimes people will look at a like an album cover, they're like, "Oh, that looks cool," and that's how you used to choose back then. To where some, I mean, it still catches the eye. So if somebody's browsing and sees that that artwork on the EP, click on it if they've never heard it, and they're going to be, of course, be blown away by it, and then go buy all the past albums.
Well, yeah. Hopefully, we'll catch some new fans with this special release.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's always a thought. So these songs, of course, are from of course the 2004. But I know that I've read that you're also writing new stuff and possibly releasing for the next year. For yourself, how do you feel that your guitar playing has changed from since when you first started to where now you're writing new material? Do you feel like it's changed, or you still approach it the same when you're writing?
That's a good question. I mean, I hope that I've evolved as a guitar player for the past 20 years, and since I wrote those songs in 2004. But yeah, I guess exploring new kinds of music, playing different kinds of music as well, has probably influenced me and made me evolve. Uh, from what I can hear of the new stuff we just wrote this past year, um, I have maybe an ear for more melodic stuff, incorporating more melodies, which is kind of weird because it makes some of our new songs sound a bit more like black metal.
Oh
I
yeah.
should say. So yeah, I like the eerie and evil sounding melodies and riffs of
Yeah.
some of the like great black metal bands out there. I've listened to a lot of Dark Funeral lately, and they just put out some great stuff. So, yeah, because back then we were more into like the chaotic stuff. We were listening to Dillinger Escape Plan and our friends in Iron Dissonance and those mathcore bands,
Yeah.
so and dissonant chords and stuff. So we're keeping some of these elements in our music, but leaning more into like the more uh, structured songs with hooks and choruses and verses and melodies. So yeah, I guess it's just getting old.
Yeah, well, you can't play fast forever.
Exactly. Yeah, I like the groovy stuff as well. You know, it's always been a very important part of our sound, like those breakdowns and the
Yeah.
groovy parts. Most of our influences back then were slam death metal bands like Devorment and Dying Fetus and Disgorge, and it's still very an important side of our sound. You know.
Yeah. I can't remember which musician had said it to where, people will remember music where it's easier for people to remember music to where if they can hum to it or there is something that's easy to capture, and place that earworm to where you can hear, I mean, we can talk about decades of bands that you can hear a riff and you automatically know what it is.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, so and that's what I like about Despised Icon. I mean, not only do you have your fast parts, but you also in between you have the breakdowns and you also have the groovy parts in there, like you were mentioning, to where it's very noticeable. I mean, even though there's a lot of stuff happening, you can still kind of, even if you can't sing the words because you can't reach those pitches, you can still, you hear it and you hum along to it.
Yeah, true. And this is an important thing for us. Even today, when we write songs, we want the fans or the listeners to be able to remember like key parts, just like we used to when we were uh, listening to all those amazing death metal bands when we were kids. You know, you're at the concert and the song starts and you're waiting for this part in the song and you know it's coming and you're like yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So we wanted to it's something we want to keep in our music. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Now you mentioned that some of the bands that mathcore bands that kind of influenced you back then. What is something that's maybe some of the newer bands now that have caught your eye to where like, man, they're doing something really good and pushing what we did a little bit further.
Well, in terms of because you know when we started, I think deathcore wasn't even like a style. You know,
Right.
it was. I mean, I'm saying this in a very humble way, but we kind of created something that spawned all those bands doing what is known as deathcore today,
Yeah.
and some of these bands, I mean, or what the genre has become is very different from what we were doing and what we're still doing, you know, because in our music you can really hear like the straight up hardcore riff or breakdown influence and then the death metal parts, but nowadays what I see from deathcore bands is something else. It's like very like low guttural vocals with super low down tuned guitars, like
Yeah.
even lower than what we were doing. And
Right.
but I mean, a bunch of great bands have emerged, and we had the chance to tour with just before the pandemic. We did a tour with Shadow of Intent, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
they're a great band, a great new band. A lot of symphonic influences in their music, incorporated into their music, and very melodic. Something like I said earlier, that I'm really attracted to nowadays. Also. Bands from Canada, Brand of Sacrifice, they're like pushing the
Oh
envelope as
yeah.
well. Super groovy, super extreme stuff. Like like weird noises they're making with their guitars. Like I can't even like grasp how they're doing it. You know, it sounds like lasers and stuff. It sounds
Right.
like sound effects um, and also Signs of the Swarm are doing really cool stuff as well. Very very low and heavy and yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
these are all great new bands that caught my eye.
Yeah. And but I don't know if these guys have come up to you, but I mean, Despised Icon, of course, like you mentioned, I mean, that deathcore sound that y'all kind of pioneered in a sense. I mean, have they come up to you? It's like y'all are because of y'all, this is where we're treading.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I went to see Brand Sacrifice. They were on tour with Thy Art Is Murder last summer, and they came through Montreal, and I was backstage because I'm friends with the Die Art dudes, and the guitar player came to me and said, "I am a huge fan," and he had like a Despised Icon tattoo on his
Oh,
leg.
yeah. Hell
So I
yeah.
was very flattered, you know. But it's just I guess it's just it's a wheel that keeps on turning because we were experiencing the same thing. I remember in 2005, our first tour with Suffocation. We were like kids, you know,
Oh
like
yeah.
we were like ecstatic and so like impressed to be on tour with one of our favorite death metal bands, and I'm glad and happy to say that they're good friends of ours now, and we did more shows and tours later on with them. But our very first tour with Suffocation was really something. Same thing with Deicide, you know, and Glenn Benton was such a great guy and so nice to us, you know,
Yeah.
even though we weren't like super straight up death metal, and we had a hard time with their fans, you know, like booing us in between every songs opening up for them. But you
Yeah.
know, he was nice and was like, you know, keep grinding, guys, and you got something going on, and so yeah, so I guess I'm now it's my turn to promote and give advice and help out newer bands, you know. So
Yeah, for sure. You know, when you're writing music for yourself, do you normally start with an idea or do you just start riffing and then see what kind of feels good and then start building off of that?
um, it's I'll say it's a bit of both because sometimes and usually it happens in the morning. I'll wake up and I'll have like this like melody or rhythmic pattern in my head, and I will just hum something, and I'll grab my cell phone and just like record with the voice recorder,
Yeah.
like the rhythm thing or the melody, and it's weird. Like I could release like a whole album of just like my voice is humming riffs and stuff.
You should do
uh,
that.
yeah, and sometimes I show my girlfriend like how it evolved from my voice on their voice recorder humming a riff to like the actual song, and it's
Yeah.
quite funny, you know.
Oh man.
So that's one way to do it. But sometimes also I'll just sit down with my guitar, like change the tuning a little bit. That's something we recently did on the new songs we've just recorded, like down tuning or drop tuning, changing the tunings, and then experimenting with it, and then it'll give like a new chord or a new sound, and then that will bring me into like a riff, and I'll just record it and keep it for a song. You know, I have like this collection of I don't know, like 100 riffs on my computer that I just wrote like jamming with my guitar, and I'm
Wow.
saving them and revisit them sometimes and see if there's anything good that should land in a song.
Yeah. Now for your guitar setup, do you yourself get complicated and have like a whole space board, mothership of pedals, or do you try to keep it simple?
Oh, I've always kept it very simple because I've had other bands and projects where I had like you said, like a mothership of pedals and sound effects and stuff. And Despise Icon has always been like an outlet to keep things raw and simple. So even live, my setup is pretty minimal and simple. It's just like a gain amp and a overdrive pedal and a noise gate, and so it's the same thing I use when I'm home in my studio. I mean, now I've got I've been playing with the Kemper profiling amp for the past 6 7 years when we came back with Beast, and it's sitting in my studio, and I plug my guitar in it. Or even now I'm using sometimes all those great like neural DSP guitar plugins, just just getting like the first gain amp I put my hands on, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's so easy now. You can reamp everything. So as long as you record like the DI track straight from the guitar, like the pickup output of the guitar, then you can run it through any kind of amp you want afterwards. So
Yeah. Right. I mean, if you think about it, isn't it amazing how technology has allowed you to do any sound and simulate a cab or simulate whatever plugin that you want compared to way back when. I mean, we didn't have that at our fingertips. I mean, it's insane what we can do now.
it is insane, and dude, it's almost too much now because I mean, you get lost in those things. You can
Yeah.
spend like, I don't know, like a full hour just browsing through different presets and amps and cabs and stuff, and you end up like just writing nothing. So
What do they do all day?
yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm always trying to, just okay, I got a good sound, it's a decent one, I can record with it, so I'll just use it, and then I'll leave that to the album producers and stuff to find the right tone.
Yeah. But at least with, and talking about tone, at least when, with Despise Icon, I mean, you have a very distinctive sound and the palm muting and just that fast style to it. Is it something that you purposely wanted to develop when you were, coming with Despise Icon, or just something that happened naturally?
No, it was, I guess it's part of my guitar playing and influences, and that's something I've heard. Well, it probably started with James Hetfield of Metallica, like all that crazy down picking palm muting you can hear on
Yeah.
like early albums, and and I've always been on the lookout for that kind of playing. So that's why a lot of my favorite death metal bands were Suffocation, Malevolent Creation. Back when Rob Barrett of Cannibal Corpse was in Malevolent Creation. Like his guitar playing influenced me a lot because he's got that like super tight, chuggy palm muting thing
Yeah.
going on. So yeah, just as much as I love bands like Obituary, like their guitar sound with like they're playing with on the neck pickup and like
Right.
open tremolo picking on fast riffs, that
Yeah.
I didn't like much. So that's why you'll never really hear that on Despised Icon records. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just glad that you have the sound. And talking about, your catalog is 20 years deep. I mean, how do you feel, or what are some of the influences for you to like keep pushing and keep making music?
uh wow, that's uh that's a good question, because although I keep an eye out for what's new and coming out, I feel like I'm always going back to uh, the old albums and the bands I was listening to as a teenager.
Yeah.
So uh, whenever I'm in my car, I got this USB stick that's plugged into my car stereo, and it's just like Pantera, Sepultura, and Morbid Angel, and like Metallica, and all the old stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and yeah, so and but even though I've probably listened to all those albums for over like 1,000 times, I still get a kick out of it, and it inspires me to come up with new riffs and new stuff. So it influences me just the same way it did like 20 years ago. That's the crazy thing about it.
Yeah.
So because some part I've heard, and then there's like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's cool what they did here, and then it gives me an idea to come up with a similar part. We all take stuff from what we listen and other artists.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the level of originality in our music, I don't know. Maybe what makes it original is the combination of the different musicians. But me alone as a musician, I mean, I'm just a copycat.
No, but I mean, I completely understand. I mean, because I grew up, during that time era when Sepultura came out with Beneath the Remains and, Pantera and all that stuff, to where you can still listen to it now and it's still amazing music and it's timeless,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know?
True.
So if you get the chance, and I don't know if you do, Cavalera Conspiracy, the two, Cavalera brothers are
Brothers.
doing,
Yeah.
yeah, they're doing that, Beneath the Remains and a Rise tour. Have you caught that yet?
No, I'm not. I don't. I'm not sure. I think they came. I'm not sure if they came through Montreal, but if they did, I think it was earlier in the summer, and I was away on vacation, so I was away for a month, and I think I missed it.
Yeah.
But I've watched several live clips of that tour, and it's
Oh man,
amazing.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I caught
yeah,
it a
that's how
couple
I got
months.
into Sepultura. Beneath the Remains and Arise are like the two first albums,
Oh yeah,
and then having them like revisit all those songs and playing some songs like I went on YouTube to check out some of the songs that they never played live from those albums, and it's great, so,
yeah.
so
It's
much
awesome.
good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for myself, I mean, going back to, of course, Despised Icon, I can always, you know, get to when the times that I do work out, Despised Icon is coming in because it gets that blood going just enough to where it keeps it, gets that good pump on.
You're not the first one telling me that. It's
Oh
funny. Like
man, yeah, it
we're
just
we're good gym music.
yeah. Well, not only that, but I got to be careful when when I'm driving, especially when that last album Purgatory came out. I mean, I have to be careful because I'm from on my car and that's on. I mean, I'm turning that up loud. So there was a couple of times I had to slow down a little bit, but good thing I didn't get a ticket or anything. But I don't want to. We got a little bit more time here. You did mention, of course, you got the limited release of the EP coming out. People can pick it up on vinyl. You also have a tour coming up at the end of October in Europe. I mean, that's going to be pretty exciting, especially it's been a few years since y'all toured, and now you're heading back
Yeah,
out.
well, our last tour was just before the pandemic happened. It was fall 2019. It was actually for to promote the release of Purgatory, but we actually never toured for the album.
Yeah,
We just played a handful of shows during the pandemic here and there. Some of them were like weird experiences, but this is going to be like our actual very first uh, normal tour since we released Purgatory, and yeah, so that'll be quite something.
yeah. And it's interesting, the time that you're coming back to touring to where a lot of places have pretty much gone back to normal. I mean, especially here in the States, I mean, everything's pretty much normal. I mean, people are at shows, uh, going crazier than ever before. I mean, it's nuts now. I thought it was crazy beforehand. Now it's just insane. People are just living it up.
Yeah, but and at the same time, it's hard, and we kind of like we lost our references because there's so many tours happening now. So I
Yeah,
think it's tough for the scene, or some tours. Some tours do really well, but some other tours fail completely because I mean, when you have the possibility to see 3 or 4 shows in the same week, it's I mean,
yeah,
people make choices, and so it benefits some tours, but some others are suffering from it. So I really hope that because we're not a full-time touring band anymore, and we go out like once or twice a year, that people will come out and catch us live.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And that makes it even more, I guess, not a rush, but to know when you're coming out to tour. And the people know that you're only coming out for a limited amount of time, so they need to make it. It's not
Hmm.
going to be. It's like, oh, I'll just catch them 6 months later. It's not going to be 6 months
Yeah.
later, you know.
No, it's gonna be like 2, 3 years later.
Yeah, so if you can head out, get out there. Of course, buy the albums, buy merch at the table because that's how you make it to the next show. I mean, I try to tell people, I mean, if you're gonna get it directly from the band. If you're gonna go to the show, buy stuff at the merch table because that's how they make it to the next one.
Yeah, and same thing with the EP that we're just releasing. I mean, we have like pre-sale bundles on our online merch store, and that's how you, if you want to help out the band, that's the way to do it. You know, it goes directly into our the profits go directly into our pockets and
Right.
help us out buy gear and rent the rehearsal space to go out on tour.
Yeah. And you know, and personally to me, I mean, this is just my own opinion. There's no reason if you love a band, you should support it. You should buy stuff. You should buy their merch. You should buy their EPs, albums, whatever they have on their website. Because if you think about it, I mean, $10, $15 is not a lot to buy an album. Sometimes y'all have, you know, some bands have signed CDs that are coming out or whatever. It's not a lot compared to they'll go buy a stupid drink that's like $6, you
Yeah.
know, or they'll go to a bar and spend like, you know, $15 on just one drink. It's like, come on, man, support the music that you love and buy stuff from them. It's gonna go a long way for
Wise words, my friend. Because a lot of work goes into those songs and albums. I can tell you that. Like we
Yeah,
literally spent hours and hours like working on it and trying to make it the best we can. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, as a fan, I appreciate it. I mean, I want to thank you for your time. We've talked about the new EP. You got a tour coming up, and make sure people get out there in Europe. I read that there is another one, but we won't talk about that because I'm sure you haven't released any other information about that. But floating on the web, there's talk of another tour. Um, but of course, trying to promote the new EP by directly from the band to make sure that y'all can do what you need to do and give us amazing music.
Thank you, Renee. Much appreciated, man.
Of course, Eric, again, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day, wonderful week, and wish you the best on this Europe tour. And hopefully, there's another tour in the States after that or
Yeah.
whenever. And whenever there is, I'll make sure I'll get out there again.
Yeah, come out and come see me.
Oh, yeah, I'll hit you up for sure, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Thanks, brother. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.